Hello, I'm your benevolent Dungeon Master, Puck, and this is Puck in Modules, Classes in Session. Released also in 2014, and written this time by Steve Winter and Alexander Winter. I'm fairly certain there's a relation there. Rise of Tiamat is the follow-up to Horde of the Dragon Queen. Now, the two modules are released as a set these days, as Tyranny of Dragons, but originally they were about a month apart. And the first two modules used to be released for 5th edition. So what do we think of Rise of Tiamat? Well, I have problems with Rise of Tiamat right off the start. And part of that has to do with the new faction system that they introduced into the very first chapter. It is called the council meetings. So during the council meetings, you go and all of the different factions from throughout the Sword Coast are meeting together to try and figure out what is to be done about this dragon cult. And your party's relationship with them is determined by the things that they do in each dungeon. And the first meeting is in reference to what your party did in Horde of the Dragon Queen. A module that, at the time, came out about a month before this. So if you are perhaps a new dungeon master who is not good at taking notes, and your party completed this a couple weeks ago, and now you have this new module to run, and then you've now got to score your party based on their actions from a campaign that you have long since forgotten, well, then I guess you're just out of luck, son. I guess you get to go suck a salty salmon. But it makes more sense now that the module is released together as a set, but it was a bit troubling when the two things were set up in separate pieces. If you were going to establish a reputation system, why didn't you establish it from the beginning? Don't tell me I'm being graded on a curve after I've completed the first section of the course. You have to let me know that I'm being scored ahead of time so I know what to keep track of. But I digress. That is the first problem. This entire reputation system, and let me be perfectly clear, no reputation system has ever been introduced into a video game without the intention of padding it out. That is not to say that all reputation systems are bad. There are ways that they can be used for good. There's definitely a lot of things that can be done with reputation systems. In fact, over at Animated Spellbook there, they did a really cool thing about an honor system with dwarves that I thought was really interesting, and I thought that could be integrated here. But when I first looked at the reputation system that's built up in Rise of Tiamat, I was boggle-eyed at the entire idea because it seemed like there were so few opportunities to lose reputation, and it would be very easy for any party to have enough reputation to gain aid from those people in the final fight against Tiamat at the end. So I was like, okay, well, it's awfully easy to get these things. It must be, like, what does it mean at the end during the fight with Tiamat? So I guess spoilers for Rise of Tiamat. But the way it breaks down in the module itself is if you have enough faction ratings with each of the factions, like they give you a numbered score. If you have a high enough number, they'll aid you in the fight against Tiamat. What that equates to has all the fun and excitement of doing one of those line matching puzzles from the back of a kid's menu. It's pretty much lining up your allies with the threats from the dragon cult. And then I imagine the Dungeon Master describes a very epic battle that you, the players, are not a part of. I mean, sort of. You're tangentially a part of it because you're there to stop Tiamat, I guess. But it's just, I found the whole thing to be very disappointing overall. I found it to be superfluous at best. You know, it's one of those scenarios, and I find this with the more I do this series and go over these modules, like a lot of the modules in Dungeons & Dragons leave a lot of things open. It's kind of hand-wavy and, you know, make something up, do your Dungeon Master, which is all fine for Harry Homebrew and Victor Veteran DM. But that leaves, you know, Nelly and Norman New DM out in the cold. And I'm here for Nelly and Norman New DM. I feel like you need to, when you're making these things, keep in mind, this is the second module to come out for a very new, radically different version of D&D from the previous one. a little hand-holding would go a long way with this. I think if you had a more guided narrative, it'd be a lot easier for people to pick up. But, again, I like to make things more accessible for new people. Whenever I'm working on a module or I'm setting up a system or something, I like to think of it, okay, imagine I knew nothing about Dungeons & Dragons and I went into this. Would I be able to understand what was going on? And would I be able to present this in an effective manner? And I gotta say, like, if you're a new DM and you didn't read this module all the way to the end to figure out what exactly this faction aid is gonna result in, is gonna kind of fall flat at the end. Because at the end they just say, okay, so, like, you got these guys, and if you got the high enough numbers, they're gonna help you fight these guys and, you know, match them up. And that's it. That's the whole explanation in the module. So what can we do with that? What can we do with that? There's a couple different things. So, a little bit of a tangent. Way back in World of Warcraft Cataclysm, there was a place called Grimbatol. And in Grimbatol, the first thing that you did after you got into the dungeon is that you could free some dragons. And then you could ride those dragons through the dungeon, shooting fireballs down at the different monsters in the dungeons, weakening them so that when you came through the dungeon, it would be easier or harder depending on how well you did on the Dragonflight. I think this is a great mechanic. I think for each person that you have to aid, you could go into the final encounter at the Well of Dragons and maybe reduce the number of enemies. Maybe if you have sent one of your alliances to go neutralize one of the Dragon Cult's allies, maybe that type of units just aren't present at the Well of Dragons fight. There are certain things you can do so that your players feel like it was worth their while to gain reputation with these people. So look at perhaps, okay, so if we have the assistance of 3 different people, they softened up the troops and these guys have half health now. Or if they had the assistance of the the metallic dragons, they fought the chromatic dragons and now there aren't any drakes at the Well of Dragons to defend it. Little things like that go a long way to your players being like, oh, thank God we did that. Oh, thank God we had this assistance along the way. Whoo! Make it worth your players' while. So there's a lot of things you can do and experiment with that. So if you're a new Dungeon Master getting into Rise of Tiamat, that's what I recommend you get into. Find a way to make it rewarding, and definitely try a way to keep the flow of the narrative going between those set pieces, between the dungeons, the attacks by the Dragon Cult, and the council meetings, because you're going to have to space them out. And you don't want everything to drop out the moment that they have to go to a council meeting. It shouldn't feel like being sent to detention. Like, okay, well, you defeated all of the ice trolls, now it's time to go to the council meeting. You know? Anyways, so that's Rise of Tiamat. How do I feel about it? Overall, it's a pretty good module. I don't think they're making bad modules at Wizards of the Coast. I'll be perfectly honest. I'll say this though. I think that if they do employ novice dungeon masters at Wizards of the Coast to go through and like QA these things, that they are interpreting a lot of confused shrugs as affirmation, or they just don't have those people. Either way, moving along. So, Rise of Tiamat. What's in there for Mr. Homebrew? What's in there that you can use in your other campaigns, or if you got something to start out, or if you're cobbling things together? It's actually a lot of good stuff. If you're getting this in a digital content format, there's a lot of good maps in here. Like I said, there's a tomb stronghold. There's an incredible ice cave on like this frozen island. There's a really good mage tower in there, like a wizard tower. It's got multi-levels in it. It goes into like a space plane at some point. Really good stuff in there as far as that. Also, the Well of Dragons, beneath the Well of Dragons, the final encounter area for Rise of Tiamat, is just a perfect all-purpose map for like a final boss summoning area. I think it's a great boss arena. Grab it, use it if you can get it in a digital format, because it's just a really good map for that. Items. Talked about the dragon masks before. You get all the dragon masks in here. As far as content that you get, as far as if you're looking for compendium content, Rise of Tiamat's got a ton of it. It's got a lot of stuff as far as monsters. It's got a lot of stuff as far as items. Most of the items are the masks, I'll be honest with you. The other thing that you get is you do get the dragon tooth daggers, which, I mean, some people depict these. Here's an interesting thing. Some people depict the dragon tooth daggers as actual dragon teeth. But if you actually go into the end of the book, they actually have artwork of them, and they're actually just called dragon tooth daggers. They're really nicely adorned depending on the rank. And that's the other thing. There's a lot of great art in this for building out your dragon cult. Like, it shows you what they wear, what different adornments the different ranking members have, how they wear their gloves, how they would dress for diplomatic occasions versus war. Just really cool shit for, like, fleshing out how your cult works, how the organization works, what symbolism they use, all that stuff. I love it. It's deep lore stuff, and it's good for giving you inspiration if you are perhaps building your own cult in your own homebrew. So definitely dig into that stuff. So we got the dragon masks. We got all the other colors that we didn't get in the first one. In Horde of the Dragon Queen, so we got a red dragon mask, we got black dragon mask, we got blue dragon mask, all of them, and we also got the mask of the Dragon Queen, which is all the masks put together and all their powers combined. It's a Voltron mask. Then we got the Drakhorn, which, I mean, is, I don't know, it's a little cumbersome for a player to be ever be able to use, but you might be able to do something with it. It's like a dragon summoning horn. There's a lot of things you could do with it. I kind of half-assed used it in the show, but there's stuff you could do with it either way. As far as monsters, of course, you get Tiamat. You get a stat block for Tiamat after this, inside of this, and it is a level 30 Tiamat. It is a beast. And if you've got a high-level party in your homebrew and you just want to throw Tiamat at them, quick and easy, you grab it. It's got everything you need right in there. It's actually a pretty well-built monster as far as that goes. If you're an undead fan, there's also Nergoth the Blade Lord. Sorry, I didn't say that correctly. Nergoth the Blade Lord. You gotta say it that way. This guy's great. It's kind of a little bit of a mini boss build of a white. So you could definitely take that and use it as a mini boss if you're doing an undead campaign or just a dungeon boss in any scenario. Like, I've had my parties fight this dude like 4 different times, and I just put different hats on him. It's a great build. Definitely check it out. It's just a little bit better than your average white. A little bit of extra magic. It's a nice medium between whites and Death Knights. So if you want something that's kind of Death Knight-ish, but your party's not high enough level, grab Nergoth the Blade Lord. He'll serve you well. You've also got Ice Trolls in there, which is just a troll with frost resistance. But, I mean, a burger's not hard to make, but you'll order one anyways, so if you just want a ready-made Ice Troll, it's right there. That's what I like to compare it to. People are like, you can make those things on your own, you know. And I'm like, yeah, but, you know, sometimes I don't want to work. And it's right there. That's what Homebrew's all about. You've also got Ice Toads, which are a fun low-level monster because they have a cold aura at a very low level, which instantly makes them more dangerous and annoying. And they have a grapple with that cold aura. I love Ice Toads. Expect to see more Ice Toads from me. What else have we got in there? So we got Tiamat, we got Ice Trolls, we got Ice Toads. We also got all our different high-ranking members of the Dragon Cult. So the Dragon Cult, you got the regular cultists, and then you got Worm Speakers, and then you got Dragon Claws, Dragon Wings, Dragon Fangs, and Dragon Souls. And all of them have kind of a range of powers based on whatever color of dragon that they serve. These are great cultists. If you're doing a homebrew Dragon Cult campaign, it's worth your while to have this module to be able to pull these monsters. Because, again, ready-made stat blocks, easy to use, it's all set. You just input the type of damage, really. You also get a lot of variants, well, a couple variants of half dragons. So you got a half dragon veteran, which is the regular you get in the monster manual. And then you've also got half-dragon assassins and half-dragon gladiators in there. Really good if you don't want to build it. If you have trouble translating a template into a workable monster, you've got some ready-made half-dragons in here that you can use as well. And that's Rise of Tiamat, everybody. Overall, I like the module. A lot of great maps, a lot of great stat blocks and items. I love the Dragon Cult. Gives me a ton of information I can use for them in my own homebrews and stories. And, of course, you get, you know, the stat block for Tiamat, which is just a awesome big bad guy that you can introduce into all kinds of things, so it's really great to have. Overall, I wish it was a little bit more new Dungeon Master friendly, but I'm probably going to be saying that a lot throughout this series. And that's it. Till next time, class dismissed.